Hey everybody, welcome back and good morning to you. I hope you're having a good day so far, and hopefully it'll just get better from here on out after moving around and breathing a little bit. So today we're just going to focus on a little bit of everything. A little bit of breath, a little bit of movement, but as always the biggest thing, just paying attention to how everything feels in the body. Adjusting as needed, modifying if needed, just having a seat if needed. Just really try to listen to how these various movements and postures feel inside the body and how you can make it work a little better for you today. So we're going to begin seated. You are always welcome to sit on a block, on a blanket, a pillow. If you have another yoga mat, feel free to sit on that. Oftentimes our hips are really tight, mine included, and sometimes it's not very comfortable to sit on the ground. So if you find that's the case, try sitting up on something and sit on like the front edge of it. So those hips, the pelvis are kind of tilted forward a little bit. So as you begin to find your seat, you're always welcome to move around, or maybe you just come right to stillness. Again, just depending on how your day is going so far. Sometimes it takes a little more time than others to be able to just be still. So if you need to continue to move, to adjust, that is always an option for you. But as you find your space here, you are welcome to close your eyes or you can keep them open, your choice there. And let's begin by taking a few circles with those shoulders. You might circle one shoulder at a time, or maybe they move at the same time. And try going both directions a few times, just finding which way feels a little more comfortable, which way you get a little more of a stretch or a sensation. And after a few rounds in both directions, maybe just pausing whenever those shoulders come down and back next time. Just allowing those shoulders to rest softly here, maybe sitting a little taller, lifting through the crown of the head. You can even tuck that chin just a little bit as you begin to find a little more space through the back of the neck there. And even though we need to engage the core to help sit up tall, we want to keep that core somewhat soft so that way our breath can flow in and out comfortably. As we start to find that breath today, just checking in first. No need to change it quite yet, just noticing how you're breathing right now. Maybe it's quick, maybe it's slow. Maybe you're breathing through the nose or maybe through the mouth. Just trying to observe your natural breath. And as we move throughout class, throughout this practice, just trying to let go of any expectation you might have for yourself. Any comparisons or judgments, just acknowledging, noticing as you are right now. And as we continue to breathe, maybe on that next breath in, just taking a little count in your mind, noticing how long it takes you to breathe in. And the same thing with the breath out, just counting, noticing how long it takes you to breathe out. Maybe those numbers are different. Maybe one direction is longer or shorter than the other. And let's try to even out those numbers, making your inhale the same length as your exhale. There's no magic number you need to get to here. Sometimes people use 4 as an example, breathing into the count of 4 and out to the count of 4. Again, this is very unique to you today. It might be different tomorrow when you try it. So just find that number or that count that feels comfortable for you to breathe into and for you to breathe out to. Just trying to bring them together, the same length. After a few rounds of that, you might try adding a pause at the very top of the breath in, just for a count or two. And then breathe in all the way out. And maybe you pause at the bottom of your exhale. Again, for however long is comfortable. So for example, you might breathe into the count of 4. Maybe you pause for 2 or 3. And then we'll slowly breathe out to the count of 4. And pause for a couple counts. Again, just trying to make those pauses equal in length. And just explore with this for a few more rounds. Maybe try adding a count, or maybe you take away a count. Beginning to notice how that breath can affect how the rest of the body feels, or the mind. Let's try 3 more breaths here. And then at the end of that next breath out, feel free to let go of those counts. Just know you can come back to counting that breath at any point if you need to kind of refocus or reset. Also great to use if you're having a hard time falling asleep at night. Counting those breaths in and out, and really try to lengthen or make the breath out even longer than the breath in. Alrighty, if those legs are crossed, let's cross them the other way. So the other leg can come in front or on top. If you're seated on a chair or somewhere else, feel free to stay where you are at. But once again, let's try to find a comfortable seat. We'll finish that next breath out. On our inhale, let's lift those arms all the way up, bringing those hands together overhead and exhaling them down to our heart center. Maybe the thumbs connect with that chest bone, the sternum there. And then we'll inhale, extending out to the sides all the way up. You might try looking up at those hands, taking that lift a little higher, and then exhaling them all the way down to your heart. Once again, we're going to inhale and reach those arms up. But on the exhale, let's turn to our right side and just lower those hands. One hand to the knee, the other hand to the floor behind us. And then inhale, we'll unwind, lifting those arms up. Exhaling, let's turn to the opposite side, lowering those hands, one to the floor, one to the knee. Inhaling back up. Now we're going to move to the right once again. We're going to pause right here though. Let's keep that left hand on the right knee here. The hand that's on the floor, let's inhale and lift it all the way up towards the ceiling. Taking a little side bend here. Maybe looking up at those fingertips, and then try to keep those sitting bones, especially that right hip, try to keep it connected to the floor. Grounding down as we rise up. And then on the breath out, we're going to unwind, but we're going to just bring that right hand to the left knee. So both hands on the knees, arms crossed. On our inhale, just try sitting up as tall as we can with those arms crossed. And on the exhale, we're going to draw in through the belly, maybe drop the chin towards the chest, starting to broaden through the back of those shoulders and round through the spine. And then as we inhale, go ahead and sit all the way up, unwinding. Just open those arms up and out, maybe slightly back behind you, and then exhaling them all the way down to the floor. Let's try the other side. Inhaling as we lift the arms. Exhaling, let's turn to the left, finding that twist first. Keeping that right hand on the left knee, we'll inhale, left arm lifts up towards the ceiling or maybe overhead. Trying to root down through that left hip. And then slowly we'll just sit back up and we'll lower that left hand to the right knee. Once again, inhaling as we rise, lifting tall. And then exhale, rounding through that back, drawing in through the navel, chin towards the chest. And then inhale, lifting those arms, lifting the torso. Exhale as those arms open back and down all the way to the floor. Take a nice full breath in through the nose. And a long breath out through the mouth. Awesome. All right, let's make our way up to those feet. So moving away whatever you might have been sitting on, go ahead and make your way to the front of your space there. Feet can be close together, they can be hip width apart, whatever feels more steady for you. Just give yourself a moment, maybe just rock forward and back onto those toes or back onto the heels. Trying to create a little space in between those toes each time they lift off the floor. Just waking up those ankles and the feet. You might hear a few cracks through those feet and those toes as you do so. And then as those feet come back to the floor, let's try rolling onto the outer edges of those feet. A little stretch for those ankles, and then maybe rolling onto the inner edges of those feet. Not so comfortable there. And then connecting both feet with the ground beneath you. Really try to ground down through those toes, through the heels, but then thinking about the arches of the feet, lifting up through the arches of the feet. Try to lift them away from the floor. As you do so, you might start to feel a little more engagement through those legs, the inner thighs, even up into that core. So nice and strong through the entire leg. And then we'll just roll those shoulders down and back as we reach down through those fingertips, lifting tall through the crown of the head. Feeling strong in our mountain here. Let's take a nice full breath in. Long breath out. Let's try to keep that strength, keep that engagement through those legs rooting down as we inhale and lift those arms. And exhaling, hands can come together and back to our heart center. Once again, let's inhale and rise. On the exhale, we're going to find a little bend in those knees as we begin to sit our hips back, coming into a gentle chair. And then inhale as we stand tall, arms lift high. And exhaling to our chair. Just slowly moving with our breath, rooting down into those feet as we rise up through those arms. Exhaling, hips reach back, grounding down into those heels, inhaling as we rise. Just try to keep that awareness on those legs here, feeling that strength. Maybe it's some engagement through those legs, through the glutes. And once more, exhaling into that chair, we're going to pause. Maybe take a peek down at those toes. If you can't see the toes, it's a good sign to stand a little taller or maybe reach those hips back a little further. You might even be able to lift the toes off the floor though, so our weight is back in those heels. Let's re-engage through our core nice and strong, and let's inhale, lifting those arms. Forward and up as much as the shoulders will allow. It doesn't have to be very high. Just reaching forward through the fingertips as we draw back through those hips. One more breath in here. And then on the breath out, we're just going to lift the hips and fold over those legs. Keeping a gentle bend in those knees as we find this forward fold. Feel free to move that head side to side or forward and back, just releasing through the neck. And then maybe start to shift your weight a little bit from one foot into the other. Just finding a little movement through the hips, through those legs, as we start to wake up those hamstrings. Again, just keeping that little bend through those knees to help release some of that tension, that tightness we hold on to in our lower backs. Now as everything comes back to center, let's bring those hands to the floor. So bending those knees as much as you need to do so. And we'll step just our right foot to the back, lowering down to that right knee as you untuck the toes. Try to feel that connection of the top of that right foot with the floor. And then we'll inhale and lift those arms all the way up to a kneeling lunge. Bringing shoulders over those hips and try to point that tailbone straight down towards the floor. Breathing or bringing awareness to the front of that right hip here as you take one more breath. Inhaling as you lift through the arms, through the torso, and then exhaling, hands to the floor. Tucking the toes, lifting that back knee. Let's step all the way back to our downward dog. Take a few breaths here if you'd like, walking out those heels. And just like we did grounding down into our feet when we were standing, think about grounding down into those hands, those fingertips. Trying to press that mat forward, away from those feet with those hands. And then maybe bringing awareness up those arms to those armpits. Try to face those armpits towards one another. Really engaging through the entire arm here. Lifting away from those shoulders. One more breath here in this downward dog. And then on a breath in, go ahead and come forward to your plank. Maybe you bring those knees to the floor, or you can stay on those toes. Exhaling, bending those elbows. Let's lower all the way to the chest and the belly. And then inhale, lifting the shoulders, lifting the heart. Baby cobra. Elbows are reaching behind us. Crown of the head is reaching forward. And exhale, go ahead and release back down. Inhale, pressing into those hands, lift into those knees. Exhale, hips reaching back towards those heels. And then inhale, lifting the hips high back to your downward dog. Let's bend through our right knee, drawing the right knee forward, stepping that foot to the front, helping that ankle forward as needed. Left knee can lower to the floor. Again, see if you can feel or notice that connection between the top of the foot and the floor. Grounding down into that front heel, rooting down as we rise up. Inhaling as we lift. Exhale, maybe try to soften those shoulders. Reaching the tailbone straight down towards the floor. Inhaling one more breath as we lift through the fingertips, creating even more space through the ribs and the hips. And exhaling, hands to the floor. Tucking those back toes, let's lift the knees so we can step that foot to the front, back to our forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. So the crown of the head reaches forward. Shoulders are drawing back and engaging through that core. Exhaling, bending those knees as you fold over those legs. Nice deep bend in those knees. Again, rooting down into those feet as we rise all the way up to standing. And exhaling out through the mouth. Just sigh it all out as you let it go. Let's continue to move as we inhale and rise. Exhaling to our chair. Hips reach back. Heart reaches forward, engaging through that core nice and strong. Let's add a little twist here. So maybe on the next breath in, we lengthen through the spine. And then on the breath out, let's just turn to one side. Doesn't matter which, we'll do both. Keeping those elbows lifted, the palms pressing into one another. Just think about wringing out that spine. Strong through that core. Inhaling, slowly untwisting, coming back through center. And exhaling, let's turn to the other side. Continuing to press into both of those heels. Twisting through the spine, keeping the shoulders, the chest nice and open. And next breath in, we'll unwind. Exhale, lifting those hips. Let's find that forward fold. Dropping the chin towards the chest. And maybe instead of moving those hips side to side, maybe just bend that left knee. So you kind of turn the shoulders, the gaze to the right. And then maybe you bend the right knee so you turn a little bit to the left. And we'll slowly come back to center. Let's step our left foot to the back. Lowering to that left knee, untucking the toes. Inhaling as we rise. Lifting the torso, lifting the heart, lifting the arms. Exhaling, we're going to bring our hands through our heart center as we twist to the right towards that front knee. Once again, we're going to keep our elbows lifted so we stay tall. So I know oftentimes we come down here. Let's try to stay tall here. Again, just focus on twisting from that lower back all the way to the crown of the head. Finding that connection between the fingertips, the palms, and the breath. One more full breath here as we pause. And then inhaling, slowly unwinding. Bringing those hands back to the floor, tucking the back toes as you lift the knee. As you step your front foot back, you're welcome to lift it all the way up if you'd like, or you can just lower it to the floor. Feel free to move through that right knee a little bit, maybe draw some circles. And then slowly lowering it back to the floor. As you feel ready, into that downward dog. Let's inhale forward to our plank. You have the option, you can bend those elbows and lift into cobra, or you can just lower those knees, drop those hips, untucking the toes and maybe lifting up through the heart. Grounding down into those hands like you're trying to push the floor away from you, and then see if we can squeeze those shoulder blades together behind the back. Just breathing into the front of that belly, the front of the torso. On the next breath out, drawing in through the navel, tucking the toes, reaching the hips back towards those heels. And then slowly lifting the hips back to that downward dog. Okay, if you lifted that right leg, let's lift our left leg. Reaching it back and up, or you can bend that left knee, drawing a few circles with that knee. And then as the knee comes back to center, let's exhale and draw that knee forward. Stepping our foot to the front. Lower into that right knee, untucking those toes. Inhaling as we rise, nice and tall. Reaching the tailbone down as the arms lift up. Exhaling, bringing our hands together through our heart center as we turn to our left. So again, just towards that front knee. Now maybe that right hip is reaching forward, but trying to continue to press into those palms. If you want a little stretch on the wrist, you can even bring the backs of the hands together at your heart center. But just trying to keep the shoulders nice and open. Finding that breath here. And then on another inhale, slowly untwisting. Hands can come to the floor. Let's lift that back knee and we'll step forward. Finding that forward fold. Once again, inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, forward fold. Nice deep bend in those knees, rooting down as we slowly rise up. And maybe try sighing it out through the mouth. As we lower those hands back to our heart. One more time through that little flow as we inhale and rise. Exhaling, hips reach back as we bend through those knees, finding that chair, engaging through that core. Nice full breath in as we lengthen through the spine. Exhaling, let's find that twist to one side. Now maybe here, you drop the knee or the elbow towards the knee, or you can keep the elbows lifted, or you can open those arms. Just for one more full breath as we hold, strong through our core. And then maybe on the breath in, hands come back to our heart, untwisting. I know those legs are tired, but you can do it. Let's twist to the other side. Breathing through that discomfort. Like we get on and off the mat. We're not always comfortable. We gotta find our breath. Breathing through it. One more full breath here. And hands can come back to our heart. Inhaling forward, go ahead and exhale and fold. Over those legs, straighten them out a little bit. Maybe even shake those legs out a little bit. Okay, as we inhale, we're gonna lift halfway. Let's step our right foot to the outside of the left foot. And then exhaling, let's fold back over those legs. The hands might come to the floor, they might not. Maybe they're hovering, and that's okay. Or you can even walk those hands over to the right if you want to take it a little bit deeper. Noticing where you feel that stretch here. Breathing into that area. Letting it go with the breath out. And then inhale, and we'll walk the hands back through center. Lifting halfway up, finding that long spine as we switch those feet. Stepping left foot to the outside of the right. And then exhale, folding over those legs. Keeping a soft bend in both of those knees as you do so. Lifting the hips, dropping the crown of the head down. Maybe walk those hands over to the left. Or they can stay right in front of those feet. Slowly walking those hands back to center. Let's inhale, halfway lift. Uncrossing those feet, exhaling, forward fold. And let's step right foot to the back, lowering down to that right knee. Inhaling as we rise, lifting tall. Exhaling, finding that twist to the left. Bringing our hands through our heart center. Inhaling back up through center, lifting those arms. As we exhale, we're gonna walk that front foot forward, lowering those hands to the hips, or they can come to the floor. We're just gonna try to extend through that left leg. Now maybe you stay tall here, or you can gently start to hinge forward at those hips. You might walk those hands down to the floor. You can always sit back onto your heel as an option as well, or hold on to the wall or a chair or something that's next to you. And if that leg isn't all the way straight, that is okay. Just breathing into the back of that front leg. Relaxing through the jaw, through the area around the eyes, through the shoulders. One more breath here. And then slowly bending that front knee. So you can walk those hands forward once again. Tucking the back toes, lifting that knee. Go ahead and step that front foot back and maybe all the way up. Or you can just lower it to the floor. If that leg's lifted, you might try bending that left knee and just open the hip to the side. Maybe turn that gaze underneath that left arm. And then slowly lowering both feet back to the floor. Let's inhale forward to our plank. Shoulders above those wrists. Exhale, maybe bend those elbows, or you can just drop the hips. Inhale, lifting into your cobra or your upward dog. And exhale, let's make our way back to those knees. Hips reach back towards those heels to our extended child's pose. And inhale, lifting the hips high, downward dog. Okay, if you lifted that left leg, let's lift that right leg. Maybe you bend that knee and open the hip to the side. You can roll out the ankle. Listening to how the body wants to move here or hold. And then bringing the knee back to center, exhaling as we step that right foot to the front. Lowering down to that left knee, untucking those toes, inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, let's find that twist to the right. Inhaling as we unwind, arms lift back up, and exhaling, hands to our hips. Maybe walking that right heel forward a bit so we can straighten out that right leg. Toes are lifting up towards the ceiling. Exhaling, we might hinge at those hips. Just starting to fold over that leg. Finding a spot for those hands to rest. Where you can balance here, where we can pause. Let's find 3 full breaths here. And then as you feel ready, bending that front knee so you can walk those hands back to the front of that mat. Go ahead and tuck those toes. We'll lift the knee. We're going to step forward, but we're going to keep those knees bent and just drop those hips and have a seat on the mat. We're actually going to lower all the way down. So feel free to bring those knees with you as you roll down onto your back. And if it feels okay on that lower back, keeping those knees drawn in towards the chest, hands can come to the front of those knees. We're just going to do a few egg beaters with those knees. So we draw those knees out away from one another and then back in towards one another. So we're making circles with those knees. They're just going in opposite directions. Trying to use your hands to guide the movement here. Allowing those hips to relax and release. And maybe try reversing direction of those circles. Bringing awareness maybe to that lower back as it's moving around on the mat. And then the next time those knees come back to center, let's pause there. And then we'll guide both knees over to the right side, rolling onto that right hip. Let's reach our left arm up overhead till the top of your hand comes to the floor or hovers over the floor. And then very slowly guiding that hand over to the left side, pausing anywhere along the way where it feels a little more, needs a little more time or attention. You might even turn that gaze to the left if it feels okay on the neck. And see if you're still, if you can breathe into this. Inhaling into that space that you're creating. Exhaling, allowing that tightness to go a little bit more. One more full breath here. And then turning the gaze back up towards the ceiling. We'll engage through the core as we draw the knees back up. And then slowly guiding those knees over to the left side. rolling onto that left hip. Maybe that right arm reaches all the way up overhead till you feel the floor under the top of the hand, or it can just hover there depending on that shoulder mobility. And then very slowly guiding that arm, the hand over to the right side. Try to keep the arm extended the whole way. Pausing anywhere along the way. Maybe turn that gaze to the right. And try to check in with that breath. About one more full breath here. And then we'll bring the gaze back to center. Engaging that core, drawing the knees back up. Go ahead and lower both feet to the floor. You're welcome to stay right here, or you can extend those legs all the way out in front of you. Maybe those arms come along the sides, palms facing up. You can even walk those shoulder blades a little closer together underneath the body if you'd like. Taking a moment to feel the mat underneath the body. Allowing that breath to come back to its natural pace. Maybe you try counting that breath once again. And just finding some areas that might still be holding on tight that you can let go with each breath out. Giving yourself this time, these next few minutes, or as long as you are able to today, to just notice and observe where the mind goes. Maybe using your breath or those physical points of connection with the mat as your anchor, as something to come back to when you notice the mind drifting off. I will leave you here in your Shavasana. Thank you for joining me. And whenever you are ready, just slowly making your way back out and back up to a seat. Hopefully I will see you again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Namaste.